Good to be here with you. I think that answer, or rather question and answer period is always very informative, and you can always learn a lot from it. Not everybody is always prepared to ask the questions. Some people are very hesitant to ask questions, but we learn by asking. And of course, I don't think that asking questions ought to be lazy man's way of trying to gain some information without doing some research. But Bible school students are already used to research, and so I'm sure that you do that. We're going to go right into the first question, and this will be addressed to Brother Leaman. It's in his field. This may seem to be a question of an immature novice, but how sincere it is. I would like to know that if a person fails to complete his or her faith promise commitment, should he or she make renewed faith promises or play catch-up? And if so, play catch-up, how does one relieve condemnation of failure? Through negligence and self-righteousness and pride. A very concerned saint of God.
Well, first of all, faith promise is really what it says. It is faith that what you are believing God to do through you, He will help provide it. It is not a credit application that you're filling out. It is not a pledge that you're filling out. It is a step of faith, believing that what you have believed God for, He will provide it. I'll tell you what happens a lot of times in a faith promise commitment. Many times people step out, make a commitment. God provides, and instead of individuals giving it, they get some money unexpectedly, and they want a new pair of shoes, they want a new dress, a new tie, a new suit, or, depending on the amount. But I am a firm believer that if we step out by faith and trust God, God provides. We are the ones that fail, not the Lord. Now, if you are under condemnation because you have spent the money for something else, that's between you and God. It is a step of faith, but many, many times God has provided. Individuals are the ones that have failed. Does that answer the question? Well, usually the catch-up falls under the category of whether or not you have given the money that God has channeled through you. I've had people tell me they didn't realize how God had provided. One young lady told me how that she had made a faith promise commitment and heard all the other testimonies of how God had provided. And she said all at once God quickened to her mind that she had just received a raise on her job, and it was almost exactly what her faith promise was for. And instead of using that money to fulfill her faith promise, she was using it on other areas. I really think this is something that you just have to settle between you and God. It is a step of faith. It is not your tithing. It is not a pledge. It is by faith. I believe God will help me with that amount of money each month to pay my faith promise commitment.
Thank you, Brother Leaman, and we'll excuse you since Brother Leaman is very busy and has quite a lot of other work to do and some to take care of immediately. And so thank you, Brother Leaman. Now, I noticed that quite a number of these questions concern themselves with the AIM program, and I think that this is a very, very healthy situation and a very healthy indicator, because at your age and your involvement, I think that your first concern is rightfully in the direction of the AIM program. And so we have one here with a number of questions concerning the AIM program, and I think I'll have these first of all. So I'm going to ask Brother Freeman to first of all explain the AIM program in detail.
Thank you, Brother Shalm. And the AIM, the word AIM, which is really the letters for Associates in Missions, is a program that we started a number of years ago now, that persons, young or old, the age doesn't really matter, who maybe could not get a full appointment as a missionary, or they maybe do not want that much, but they want to go for a shorter period of time, up to 1 year. And then we have those who have made such a success on the particular area of the world where they were working until they've been extended from 1 year to 2 years, and then after that they don't want to extend it anymore much. We want you to make another plan. But now this opens mission work to a much wider field than just the fully appointed missionaries. And it allows the specialized training that a person may have to be used in either in the teaching ministry or in building or something along that line. If you have a specialized ministry, it's an open door there. And of course we have a number. We have even some families. We have young ladies. We have young men. We have young married couples. We have older married couples working in Bible schools or in training and things like that. So the AIM program, to me, is one of our most challenging programs we have in the Foreign Mission Division for a particular congregation like we have here, the Bible school students. There is a very, very good possibility that if you feel that way, that you can become involved in this AIM program.
Could you perhaps mention the financing of this type of program?
Thank you, Brother Shalom. It's financed under 4 different categories. Some people are born with a silver spoon in the mouth. You know the expression that I do not need finance from somewhere else. Now, I was not born that way. I don't think I even had a brass spoon or any kind in my mouth when I was born. But anyway, but some are able to finance their own, and God blesses them because they're willing to use their own personal finance that way. Then you have those that can finance their transportation there, the airfare or usually airfare, and their support while they're there partially, and you need some help. Then there's those that their churches. Sometimes those have a rather prosperous church behind them, and they can support. And then those who do not have the finance, but it has to be raised. And of course, when you make your application, which you do, Brother Rodenbush, the Director of Overseas Ministries, handles this particular phase of the work. And you make your application, and when your file, as we refer to it, has been completed, and you receive your appointment, a budget has been agreed upon, and then you must raise that through friends, churches, whatever. You're not allowed to deputize as an appointed missionary. Only they are allowed to deputize and get partners in mission. But you get your support. The telephone is always a good means to communicate with a thing like this. And then when you have a specified percentage of that in and the rest of it, pledged, well, then you are authorized to go to the field that wherever you have been appointed to. Thank you, brother.
All right. I'll just go over the other questions that are here on the same sheet, and maybe just re-underline it again, what Brother Freeman has already said. What are the necessary requirements? First of all, age is 21 too young. 21 is not necessarily too young, providing you have qualifications. It's understood, of course, that an AIM missionary is qualified in some field or another, whether it's in theology or as a secretary or as a nurse. There should be some area in which you have something to contribute to the field. Otherwise, it wouldn't be very good stewardship on your part to go, or for anyone to help you to go, because if you're not going to contribute or not at all in a position to contribute, or you're not mature enough to learn, then neither you would gain nor the field would gain that much. But I don't think that age is necessarily the criteria here. Then, of course, experience. If you're going to become really involved and they have home missions in brackets, good home missions experience is always an added plus, irregardless of where you involve yourself in the work of God. I think really good grassroots home missions work. It's very, very hard to really find anything better to help you, prepare you for any aspect of the work of God effectively. Married or single, that would depend on the role that you're going to fill on the field. Would being a single girl be a hindrance? Not necessarily, but depending again on what you were applying for, the role that you're going to fill on the field, and the particular field that you're going to. What is mainly needed? Clerical, musical, theological teachers for missionary kids. I would say that in most fields, or in many of the fields, any one of these qualifications would probably be very helpful. I don't know of, in the area of musical, whether that in itself, if that was just the one, would probably not apply in every field, but could conceivably apply in some others. So you'd have to be in contact with the local missionary in that area to find out. All right, we'll go on to the next question. What procedure would one go about on this 30-day Europe AIM program? A deadline, etc. Brother McFarland.
Thank you, Brother Shalm. It's certainly a privilege to be here today and to be a part of this panel. There is a brochure that explains some of these things. I don't know whether there's a supply here or not. If not, we'll get a supply sent to you so that you can look through. And it does answer some of these questions. And if you are interested in AIM, then you write to the Foreign Mission Division through the headquarters and ask for an application. The reason that we mention the 30-day in Europe is because there is a tremendous outreach going on now in the English-speaking countries of Europe, especially the United Kingdom. We will have 5 missionaries under appointment in the UK, and that would cover England itself, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. And to go to maybe some other part of the world where you would have a language problem would be difficult for 30 days, but you can certainly find plenty to do, home Bible studies to help with, street meetings, singing, any kind of musical talent. All of this can be fulfilled, especially in the United Kingdom. And so what would happen there is if you fill out your AIM application and it would be approved, and your arrangements for the travel can be in fact, they now have a round-trip ticket from New York to London for less than $300. And maybe from other areas they would be able to fulfill this. So going for 30 days then, you would land on the spot and probably start work the next day. And your missionary would help provide some place for you to live. Sometimes they have a facility in the church or the premise where that an AIM worker can stay. It's not recommended that the AIM worker stay necessarily with the missionary family. As you can see, that wouldn't always be the best, but the missionary would provide some place for you to stay. And then during that time, you would be used for either in one country or the other countries there to do personal evangelism outreach, teaching, counseling, and they would use you fully for the 30 days, and you'd work up until the 29th day and grab the plane and come back home. But it would be a wonderful experience. You would be a great blessing, and we have had several to work with this. On the other hand, there are other languages throughout the region, and if you know Spanish, French, Italian, German, Scandinavian, Eastern, whatever, you could use it. But the reason I mentioned England is because you would not be involved with the language problem. But if you do have any kind of a foreign language, then you could go to another country there. And I think it's important, if you're only going to be 30 days, however, that you go to a country that you know the language. So there are several countries like this, and we'd like to have about 100 AIM workers go this summer. So would you like to be one of them? If so, send in for an application and get started on it, because summer's coming on in just a few short weeks away. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother McFarland. I might just mention that you could, of course, also use English in any of the former British colonies, such as Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, and those former colonies of the United States. And I guess they didn't call them colonies, did they? But there are, for instance, the Philippine Islands and many other areas where English is used quite extensively. It limits you a little bit, but you would still find plenty of work to do. Yes, that would be in any country where the British ruled originally, or where they have instituted the English language in the school program now. There are would certainly provide opportunities. And as Brother McFarland said, if you know Spanish or French, then you can specialize, go into some of the other areas where there is an even greater need probably for help. All right, we're going to get to Brother Smith here with these questions. Does the missionary take any articles of furniture with him or buy it all there?
Thank you, Brother Shalm. I would say that would be based upon the area where you're going. Some areas it's very hard to find the more modern type of furniture that you're accustomed to. Some areas that you go to, you can buy used furniture, which will supply the need just as well as buying or purchasing new furniture, especially if it's close to a military installation.
All right, we'll ask you another one, Brother Smith. Does a missionary have any kind of diplomatic immunity?
Well, I don't really understand that question, Brother.
Yeah. No, really, a missionary has absolutely no diplomatic immunity.
No.
If anything, he is more suspect of being a CIA agent,
Well, that's true.
or something of that nature. We certainly cannot claim any immunity. The few countries that grant missionaries some very special status is the French government and the Swiss government. They're the only two governments that I know of that provide their missionaries some special facilities. But from the Western world, most of our governments seem to think that we're a nuisance, public nuisance number one, and they help us under duress, but not from the standpoint of immunity. All right, we have another one here. What length of terms are available? Maybe you want to answer that, please.
As a full-fledged missionary, that would be a 3-year term, 3.5 or 4-year term, based on the time that you stay on the field. If you stay 3 years, when you return home, you would only get 6 months of furlough, 3.5 years, 9 months, and then if you stayed a full 4 years, you would be privileged to have a year furlough time.
Yes, the missions division, of course, generally expects you to stay 4 years. That's what they basically work on. All right, with the AIM program, do you need to know the language of that country to be a help? Brother Freeman, maybe. Oh, go ahead, Brother Smith. You go ahead.
Very definitely, you would need to know the language. Otherwise, you would have to have someone to travel with you and be with you at all times to be effective on the field. So there would be a great necessity for you to know the language where you were going to be working.
All right, Brother Freeman, Brother Freeman is a man who's never frustrated, never in doubt as the will of God. And so we have the right question for him. How did you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were called to the mission field?
Thank you. That is a very, very excellent question. But now, all the buildup I had, I don't know now about this. Personally, I do not know what triggered my first knowledge that I was called to be a missionary, called to preach, to be a missionary. It was just a lad of a boy, and I've said different times that I would be weeping. My mother would hear me weeping, because of the fear. I was afraid of the will of God. The devil, loves to make you afraid of the will of God because it's the impossibilities and the perplexities. And like any mother, my mother would come, son, what's wrong with you? Well, I'd have to invent something like a stomach ache or an earache, and I got a lot of castor oil and things that I didn't need or want because I was afraid to share what I knew. Now, I'm one individual, and you are totally another one. If you don't believe it, look at the fingerprints, but now if you want something beyond a shadow of a doubt, you may be asking a hard thing. But what God wants from you and I is, here, my Lord, I'm willing to do what you lead me to do. And now if you're waiting, going to sit and wait until you have a clap of thunder from heaven and a voice that shakes you in your shoes, you may never have that. I never had it. I just always knew, and I tried to talk God out of it, and I couldn't because it's His will and what plan for my life. But I believe that each one of us, to walk in the Word of God, led by the Spirit of God, can definitely know the will of God. It's not hard to know the will of God. Be not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. And the next verse says, be not drunk with wine wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit. That's number one. And if you stay filled with the Spirit and walk in the bounds of the Word of God, you will know the will of God.
Thank you, Brother Freeman. All right, we're going to come to Brother McFarland here. What should a person who is graduating this year do to get into foreign mission work?
Thank you, Brother Shalm. There are several things that a person could do according to their feeling or direction. To be a fully appointed missionary, one must have been ordained. To go as an assistant missionary means that they have not received ordination, and therefore an assistant missionary must work under the direction of a fully appointed missionary. So if a person would feel their direction to a field where there are other personnel there, and they would want to go as assistant missionary to work in a Bible school or to assist in that area, then they would not necessarily have to push toward receiving the ordination. But certainly they would want to become involved in toward full-time work as soon as possible, and evangelizing, pastoring, assisting, to keep the ministry fresh and to get some experience. As to the part of the world that you would be going, this would affect your direction. I think that you that are graduating would look to the Lord for His open door for you. And I think many mistakes are made when we try to force closed doors. And we set our own ideas in our direction, and then we try to force the door that we feel like is ours. But I think the first thing to do would be to find the will of God and stand back a little bit and say, Lord, open the door for me. It may not be exactly what you think it should be, but if you have an open door and you feel the direction of the Lord, take it. Someone said, well, but it doesn't reach out into the exciting area that I thought I should go as being a graduated Bible college person. But remember that God does not judge us by college graduates or any other facility except our own personal commitment to the Lord. And so you can thank God for your experience, and God will use all of this and all of your training. But first, commit yourself to the Lord and ask Him to open the door for you and give you the direction. Once you begin to find open doors that God gives you, it's a lifetime pursuit that is a wonderful feeling to follow through and obtain. So I would suggest that you seek the Lord definitely, and ask the Lord to help close some doors that maybe you're not sure about now. And when God closes doors, accept them as closed, at least for the time being, and seek Him for the open door that He wants you to fulfill your future for Him.
Since we have none of the wives of missionaries present here today, I'll try to give you a brief answer to the next question. What role does a missionary's wife play? I think the Bible speaks for itself when it says that a wife is to be a helpmeet. And I think that the helpmeet aspect of it begins in the home. If a missionary wife, if they have small children, that's the first responsibility, is toward the children and the husband. And then from there on, there can be a natural development of ministry. For example, in Sister Freeman's case, you know that she is very, very capable and in great demand. In fact, she left this morning to go to Indianapolis, and she will be taking one of these services there, ladies' auxiliary meeting or something of that type. And I mean, I don't think it's hard to stereotype it. It is partially governed by your own feelings on some of these situations and a mutual understanding. Now, one thing that the missionary wife can't be is the head of the home. She cannot in any way project the image that she is running the show, because if she does, she will immediately lose all the respect of the nationals in the country where she is, because you know that, well, their concepts are different. And of course, it's not biblical, and it doesn't work there, and it doesn't really work here in this country either. Now, we have women that are extremely influential and who certainly make a tremendous impact, but they are women in our ranks who have learned to not destroy the ego image of the male. Now, that's putting it pretty hard, and I think girls probably like that. But you have to deal with male ego. And, of course, there's a little ordination there in the Scripture, placing the man as the head of the house. And so I think that what ultimately becomes natural for you, your involvement in the work of God, that is in order. And so you start in the home. That's your first responsibility. Don't ever feel, if you're a missionary wife and you aren't involved in, being the superintendent at all of these sort of things on the field, and you are looking after your family, you're making a comfortable home for your husband, you're showing the nationals love and respect, and they respect you, then, don't feel like that you're under condemnation, that you're not being a missionary. You are being a missionary's wife. And as you fulfill those roles and opportunities come in a natural sequence, of course, you will become more and more involved in other aspects of the work of God. If any of you brethren want to add to that, you go ahead and add to it. Feel free. Every man's ministry, and you are being the greatest possible help when you support the husband in the areas that the Bible assigns to you. And as I say,
automatically the developments will come in the other area. But if you try to push yourself, if you leave your housework and you leave the responsibilities with your children, your families, then ultimately you undermine your effectiveness in the work of God. All right, let's go on to the next one. Does age affect your appointment as a foreign missionary? Who is next? Dave Smith, why don't you?
Thank you, Brother Shem. I don't feel that age would affect your appointment unless it would be too young. There is a possibility when you reach an age later in life that it would become very difficult for you to adjust to a foreign field, a new type of work. A good age, after observing many years, I've seen young men and couples come in at 27, 28 years of age and fit in beautifully and just follow the pattern. I've seen some younger ones that did make some success of it as full-time missionaries. So the age limit, I suppose, would depend on your capability and your qualifications. But for the field, it is very difficult to adjust after you reach a certain age. I'd say of something like 46 forward of that.
We'll ask you one more question. How long do you have to be active in the work in the States before you can go abroad as a foreign missionary?
That too would depend upon your qualifications as you are presented to the Foreign Missionary Board. You must realize that to be appointed as a missionary, there would be certain qualifications for you to meet concerning the opportunities that you've had and whether or not you took advantage of those opportunities. It's always good to have some experience behind you. I'm not saying years and years, but getting involved in your local church, getting involved where you are located, would have a dependency upon you being appointed or not.
All right, Brother McFarland, we'll come back to the AIM program again. Are there AIM programs for the seasons other than summer? How much notice do you need to give before the trip departure time?
Thank you, Brother Shalm. The AIM program is very flexible. It can be from 30 days to 1 year. It does have a 1 year maximum time. However, at the end of 1 year, if a person is located in an area and would like to apply for another extension to this, then that's possible to do so even on the foreign field. In fact, we have several now that are serving in this capacity. Some of the areas that go beyond the 30 days, we have need of teachers that can teach missionary families. This has been very beneficial because in some areas, the cost of education for missionary families has been in the thousands of dollars. And so an AIM worker that can go, that has the ability to do this, can go and teach either one missionary family or in some areas, several that come together. And then they fulfill their teaching ability to train these children, and also they work then in the local area, wherever it might be. The military also is using non-military men as pastors. These men that are qualified to go and fulfill the role as a pastor in a military. It can be several cities or an area, we'll say. Sometimes it's just one city. Others they cover several areas. The non-military pastor then gets his fare, and usually then, as he begins to work with the military group on military base, the support from that does carry the expenses. And I think we do have 5 right now serving. There's a great need for more non-military pastors that would go. And then the facilities in that kind of a plan, that is the facilities for the family, are taken care of by the military district, who contribute to the expenses until the local area that the person is working in gets strong enough to fully support that family. So there are several areas. Some that have foreign language study go as an AIM worker to translate tracts and to help write material in these languages. And so really there's an endless list of where AIM workers can go, and reaching all the way from 30 days to 12 months, 90 days, 6 months, however. But if I were a young person and wanted to have any kind of a feeling of foreign mission work, I would certainly look into the AIM program, because I think it's very safe to go into the AIM program. You're not locked into a 4-year time wondering, should I accept it or not. During this time, it can help direct your life as to whether this is a part of my ministry in the future or not. So, as you can see, then there are many areas, and the length of time depending from 30 days all the way up to 12 months. Yes, in fact, this is a great need right now in different areas where any kind of musician would be a great help. And, of course, one thing about music, it's not in languages. It might be a little different in timing, and some of the keys might have to be practiced on a little bit, but music is the same language, and this is a great need. In fact, I know right now of 2 areas that are asking the Lord to send an AIM worker to help them, especially in the music program.
Thank you, brother. I'd just like to say that right now we have need for qualified teachers to teach in the Bible school in India. It's not an ideal location for a single individual unless are in a position maybe a little bit older so that they could survive lonesomeness and all of those sort of things. But it's one of the Bible schools where they will accept lady teachers as well as men. So it's 2 ladies that are qualified to teach, graduates, and you're ready to teach. Why, there is a possible opportunity. Or staff members from PBC that would like to go. Why, we'd be very happy to. We'd be very happy to have Brother and Sister Griffin go and spend some time there. They could work that in very well with their summer. It would not draw them away from their regular school assignment. This would work in. They would be back here, and I'll tell you, they'd be on fire next year. They'd just really turn you on. No, we are not. That all has to be worked out. But it is a distinct possibility. We had staff members from other schools there to teach this year, and it is possible to work it in with the summer program, because in India it happens that their school is in session when the school's out here. So it's a fearful opportunity many times, but I'm just mentioning there are continuing needs for people in the AIM program. And so don't say, well, look, I don't think there's any possibility for me. But if you're qualified, then we are interested on the mission field.
Brother Shalm, it sounded like Brother Imsey rang the bell on that one there.
Did he? Oh, I wouldn't take staff members. We tried to get them more experience. all universities send their staff members on sabbatical. Expenses paid. All right. If you have a call to foreign missions, what must you do to meet the requirements? You have to go through Bible school, Brother Smith.
No, that is not one of the requirements. Like it's been taught here continually throughout the morning. It all depends on your qualifications. If you are able to meet those qualifications, well, the board
gives appointments to Bible school students and non-Bible school students. Bible school does help. I've seen that in our field of labor. It has been a blessing to those that have studied and then chosen to pursue foreign missions. I would encourage it. And the mission board, that would be one thing that would be in your favor if you met the mission board, studying the Word of God to show yourself approved. But it is not a requirement to be appointed as a missionary to the foreign field.
So may I add to that, to emphasize, however, the worth of Bible schools and colleges is the fact that so many of our missionaries, as soon as their children reach age enough to go to a Bible college, they want to send them back to go to Bible college. So I think that speaks very highly of the need of Bible college, and certainly a large percentage of our missionary families, as soon as their children are of age to come back, when they reach that age where they cannot stay in the cornfield, they say, where is a good Bible?
There is, in more recent years, a very definite requirement from the various governments for certificate of, training, education, Bible school, or whatever. Let me tell you a little humorous story. Brother and Sister Blake, and of course, Sister Blake is very qualified, so was Sister Blake, but then for some reason, when they arrived in this country, they demanded certificates for Sister Blake. Of course, she's quite a musician, but that she wasn't really qualified in any other area. So they, out of the practice books, I forget the name of it, there is a little certificate you can fill in. So they filled in the certificate and had it photocopied about twice, while you couldn't read much of what it said. And they went in, and the man in the government representative, had some Catholic nuns who had preached in Notre Dame and so forth, that he was giving them much trouble. And finally he said, go. These people have an appointment. Well, which really wasn't true. And they said, well, we don't have a chance. Get a certificate out of the back of a practice book. And they've got the sheepskin from Notre Dame. We don't have a chance in the world. But when they sat down, they're apprehensive. He said, these people make me sick right here. So they happen to have some Tums on hand, so they offered him a Tum, and that's pretty good, so they let him keep the package, and he found out that they could qualify, so maybe a package of Tums might help you along with it. That's so true. Now, they learned that in Bible school, that you have a package that comes along with you to pass out. All right. How can we write to someone in a mission? How can we get the address? Of course, the addresses are all available from the Foreign Missions Division. And in some cases, it's not desirable to write directly to the field because missionaries are not identified as ministers on the field. In some fields, it doesn't matter. In Pakistan, for example, it wouldn't matter at all. But when we go into India, we do not indicate. I think you could go through all my luggage and you would not find any indication anywhere that I was a minister. And it's not on my calling cards. It's not on anything that I present because they are just that strongly opposed to it. Whether it's, let's say, Mexico is the same kind of situation. So that in correspondence, it's good to address the correspondence initially through the Foreign Missions Division, and then they will forward the letter on, and then, of course, you'll get in contact that way. And they'll forward it on under whatever kind of cover it needs to be forwarded on in order to safeguard the status of the missionary in that particular country. And so any information that you need, additional information, do not hesitate to contact the people in the Foreign Missions Division. They are happy to respond. They are interested in world missions. We're here representing world missions. And we're out to evangelize all the world. And whatever country God lays on your heart, whatever field God lays on your heart, you feel the challenge of that field, that's the field that you ought to prepare for, to go in and not be a mediocre missionary. If God never calls you, still do not be a mediocre Christian. Give your whole heart and life to the work of God. We only have one life. It's very, very short. Time is quickly getting away from us. And I think that we need to learn to excel. Whatever we're doing, let's do it to the very best of our ability. And then when we stand before him, he'll say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. He will not say that to all. He will only say it if we qualify. But I believe we can qualify. The world is out there. You're in a wonderful opportunity or a wonderful place to have the Spirit of God speak to your heart, to challenge you, and you are God's answer to the fulfillment of the commission. I think our time is up. It has been so good to be here with you. We appreciate your interest, your concern. We need your prayers. Each one needs your prayers. We as regional field supervisors need your prayers. We are traveling day after day through the areas where terrorist acts are not at all uncommon, and there are problems that have to be dealt with. We do not just want to deal with problems, we want to avoid problems. We want to be one step ahead of whatever the devil tries to do to hinder the work of God. And to do that effectively, we do need your prayers. The Lord richly bless you. We thank Brother Enzi. We thank each of the staff members for giving us this opportunity to share with you the call of world missions. Praise the Lord.
Please like, comment, and subscribe.